Okay, I'm live. Hi there. We're coming to you from YouTube. It's Tuesday, the 23rd of February. Those of you who are on the East Coast, like Baltimore, it's supposed to be 70 degrees today, so quite a day in the middle of February. Um, Whether we get snow in March, who knows, but it's been a very, very mild winter. And our friends on the West Coast, I know that these big snowstorms and everything else, this craziness going on out west is coming across and Chicago, then to Maine. So kind of funny how it comes really high and not coming middle of the country. But nevertheless, we wish everybody, hope everyone's doing well. Now, the title for today's talk is about education, and it's kind of interesting. And I'm just going to tell you three stories and things that just made me think about education, okay, and what we're thinking about and why things are changing. So we always know that education constantly is changing. Think about radiology for a second. Teaching files were films and envelopes. Hopefully, someone did not put the wrong film in the wrong envelope, and one person can use it at a time. We then went a little bit on computer where there was some images. Maybe it was a VHS tape or a CD at some point. And then things went on computer where there were teaching files, and the film teaching files disappeared. You had things like CTisus where you had massive numbers of cases. So lots of different possibilities in what you can or cannot do in terms of education. So those were changes that technology brought about. But and technology is always going to be the driving force across all change in the past and in the future. But maybe that's not what I'm really talking about. So Chat GPT is the latest and greatest thing. Now that a couple of weeks ago when it first came and Microsoft was pushing it, it was like everything for everybody all solved. Now, of course, it's fantastic technology. How long it'll take to be important or to work really well, we don't know. But obviously, it was a little bit ahead of itself. Remember, ChatGPT can write a paper without giving the references. It can answer, it always gives answers, but it may be crazy answers. There's lots of issues with it. It's a new technology, and new technologies take time to grow. Is it going to replace Google search? At this point, no. Will it have impact? The answer is yes. You can see that Google came out with Bard that they were working on for a while, but they felt so compelled to have to talk about it, which too wasn't ready for prime time, and a little bit of nervousness on the part of Google in that regard. But you can see that the technology, the opportunity, and the that realm of computers taking over, something people have spoken about, and written about and joked about for years, maybe is coming closer. I mean, all of a sudden, that the Chat GPT writes the articles for you, and people put their name on it is kind of a challenge. How's that going to be with education? Are people just going to, do the minimum, and then they're going to have Chat GPT do it? Are you going to not learn? I mean, we talk about all of us older folks know how to add because you had to add, right? You went to the store, you would add things up. But now everything's done by the computer. And if they make a mistake, you don't even know about it, quite frankly. And God forbid if computers went away and you had to go to McDonald's and the person at McDonald's had to add how much your bill was, and then you paid them and then had to look at cash and then give you change and give you that change correctly, basically McDonald's would be out of business. So there is lots of things like that. I think ChatGPT is the latest in a challenge of where new things are and where new things are going. The second thing is we had Nick Bayer, who's the CEO of Saxby's, which was a company which uses coffee. They have coffee shops on campuses as a way of training entrepreneurs to run businesses. It's an incredible technique. We had the CEO here a few years ago, in 2016 to be exact, when he had one place, Drexel. Now there's a dozen, more, almost over 20 places, ranging from BU to the places in Philly to Morgan State down a lower portion of Maryland to Pittsburgh. Um, what he's doing is entrepreneurship, teaching people to do things. He's taking things from theory to practice. And so, for example, at Morgan State, which is a traditional all black college in Maryland, graduation rate 17%. But the people who take the course, who do the Saxby's Coffee and the entrepreneurship program, are mentored, they're worked with, and their graduation rate is 100%. Now, you could say, of course, maybe, it's hard to say otherwise, that people who will graduate, who are successful, are more likely to get involved in the entrepreneur game. So self-fulfilling prophecy, but still 17 and 100% is quite a difference. And if you watch a video that his company produced speaking to students and college presidents, this hands-on training, this way of doing education is very successful. And it's also interesting. In many ways, you can look at it as simply an apprenticeship, right? 100 years ago, you wanted to be a doctor, you became an apprentice. You wanted to be a shoe fixer for horses, you became an apprentice. You wanted to be a carpenter, you became an apprentice. And so apprenticeship is really good in many ways because it's hands-on training from an expert, hopefully. And you can ask all the questions you want, you could watch and learn. We went from this apprenticeship, which had this negative connotation of blue collar work, to college, where you sat in a room with hundreds of people and potentially listened to what one professor in the front was saying. Sometimes works for some people, sometimes it doesn't work. This way of hands-on training, whether it's in radiology, whether it's in business, whether it's in a coffee shop, is really very, very important. And it is the way we need to look at things as we do go forward. The third thing to mention is I was speaking to an almost 4-year-old and a almost 6.5-year-old about their training and education. This is the generation of where computers were part of their background, where a 3.5-year-old can simply scroll up and down, find what they want, choose what they want, pick what they want, do everything. Or a 6.5-year-old could show me how to enter things on the computer. It's a generation of knowledge and lack of concern for technology, in the sense that technology has always been there, and it's not an oh wow moment. It's just because we know maybe it's not even technology to them. It's just basic availability. And I think that becomes a very important point, because to them, it's how you do things, and they need to be engaged. You don't want the GPT writing the papers for you. You want to be able to look at a problem, whether it's building a Lego thing where on your iPad you can see the next step, where it's not just some random nuts or some pieces of paper. You can look in 360 at the next step and do things correctly. So all of a sudden you have a 6-year-old doing the Lego sets that are for 15-year-olds. The ability to integrate, to become part of the process, this question of why, this constant, we don't need to be told, we need to be shown, and then we do it ourselves. This idea about touching and doing becomes extremely important. The idea that I told you, do what I told you, that's so yesterday. The same thing in radiology training. We need to rethink of what we do. Is it lectures that work? Is it hands-on? Is it somewhere in between? Is there some new way of doing things that will excite this generation? How do we show them what it is to do besides just saying, okay, read a few films? Are there other things we can do? What's our teaching file? What's our method? What's our connectivity? How do we teach them what's important and what's not important? How do we teach them to be great referrers if no one's coming down and half the people are remote? How do we teach what was the easiest thing in the world that a Bob Gaylor or George Saba and many more, Bronwyn Jones, would teach you as you were sitting there and clinicians came by and you was going on the Rolodex up and down. Now you're not there and they're not in radiology. You're sending chat messages, you're sending occasionally a phone call. Someone may get back to you, someone may not. It's this danger that AI is coming. How do you do that? How do you get involved and integrate yourself into the practice of medicine when everything is changing? So it's really one question. How are you going to survive? How are you going to develop in this new world? In this new world of technology, chat GPT, hands-on experience, what are you going to do? What excites you? What do you like? And how do you need to get there? And I think with that, let's come back and talk about it a different time. Write me questions, write me thoughts, and we'll get back to you. And with that, wish everyone a great day.